Welcome, everybody, to Redacted on this Monday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
And on this show, we cover the stories the mainstream media largely ignores. Right now, the mainstream media is telling us that Mexico is descending into a civil war and that, President Trump just a few moments ago said that he's happy to bomb Mexico if he sees that there are drugs involved in that trade. He also saw what was happening in Mexico City this weekend. He said it's very, very bad news down there. So we're going to go live to Mexico a little bit later in the show and talk about that.
Plus Epstein files. You probably have whiplash from it. It's a game. You guys, we are not going to get the Epstein files. We're going to show you the game that the Trump administration has played. It's a checkmate. If you think that we're getting them, you need to check yourself, and we're going to show you exactly why. We're also going to talk about war with Venezuela because now the State Department has said, we have a new terrorist group. We can go right after them. That's what we do, right?
We'll probably find out how much we funded them in the past and like Al-Qaeda and Hamas and how we've created them. But now we got to go bomb them.
That's readily available. Yeah. We know that. We're going to bomb ourselves, the group we created to flood our own country. I mean, it's fun. It's a fun game. Also, the Thomas Matthew Crooks cover-up. You want to say more about that?
No, I was just going to, go ahead. But go ahead, keep going.
What were you going to do? Go ahead.
I was going to say, and we're also going to talk about Thomas Matthew Crooks today because we're learning new information about that. Miranda Devine, following up on Tucker's report in his documentary over the weekend, new information about his online footprint and why the hell the FBI is stonewalling releasing information, not only about his autopsy report, but any of his online footprint. And they're sort of scrambling now to play catch up after Tucker's documentary last week. So Miranda Devine's new piece out today. We're going to talk about that and more.
Plus, hey, would you vote for Ted Cruz in a Republican primary? If so, what the heck are you doing here in Redacted? This is a place.
Was Kamala Harris not available?
Yeah.
What, they're just trying to find the least popular person to vote for? And like, hey, listen, what about that guy?
That guy. We all hate him collectively. I just would like to know, do I have one? Let's please refer me to the chat. Do I have one Ted Cruz fan amongst us? Because this is not the platform. So I don't know if he would play out better in other circles, but this is an independent show. We lean more, I guess, libertarian and anti-interventionist. That's not the guy. That's not it. If you're one of his voters, I need a lobotomy. I need to know why you would ever find any kind of hope in that guy.
Well, we're going to tell you about his strategy coming up here a little bit later because Axios has this new report out saying that is going to happen. So we're going to talk about all of that and more as Redacted starts right now on this Monday. But first, the saying, you look good, feel good. The problem is most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. Sure, they look sharp, but they're stiff, they're hot, they're high maintenance, which makes it hard to actually feel comfortable. That's why I'm such a fan of Mizzen and Main. Now, let's be honest. A lot of dress clothes are so uncomfortable. And these are, I'm going to tell you right now, the most comfortable pants. In fact, I wore them to a lunch meeting, and I also wore them to play golf last week. And the shirts are the most comfortable dress shirts I've ever worn. They're this performance fabric. In fact, they invented it. So it actually feels so comfortable that they've invented this over 10 years ago. Then all these other companies, try to mimic what they've come up with. But their pants look refined. They're stretchy. They're lightweight. They're moisture wicking. They're wrinkle resistant, completely machine washable. No ironing, no dry cleaning. Just perfect. You pull them right out of the dryer and they just look like they've been pressed right from the dry cleaner. They look fantastic. Right now, Mizzen & Main is offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with that promo code redacted20. That's Mizzen, which is spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and Main, M-A-I-N.com. Promo code redacted20 for 20% off. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can actually find a bunch of Mizzen & Main stores in selected states. So go there and check them out.
All right, we do have one person in our chat that said Ted Cruz is great. I wonder if that's a joke or if you mean it. Please elaborate.
It's got to be a joke.
What's great about it? I just need to know. I need to understand who's voting for him and Lindsey Graham. I have to understand this. All right, so yes, let's save that conversation till the end of the show. Let's talk about the Epstein files. It's being called a huge win for Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna. President Trump has done a total 180 now and is calling on members of Congress to vote to release the Epstein files. Now, this is the vote that will happen this week on the floor of the House of Representatives. We're going to talk more about that in a second. Because if you think that you are actually going to see the Epstein files in their entirety in a way that tells us the whole story, not just who Epstein was, who his associates was, who abused who, what governments were involved, and our own government complicity, I got a bridge to sell you. You're not going to see that. But first, in an effort to get these members of Congress to vote on the release of the files, the survivors have released a very powerful public service announcement. And I want to show it to you before we go on. So you remember there are real people whose lives were ruined by this demon. Watch.
I suffered so much pain.
So much pain.
So much pain.
I suffered so much pain. I was 14 years old.
I was 16 years old.
I was 16.
17.
14 years old.
This is me.
This was me.
This is me.
When I met Jeffrey Epstein.
This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
There are about 1,000 of us.
It's time to bring the secrets out of the shadows. It's time to shine a light into the darkness.
Okay, it's worth remembering when they say 5 administrations that this cover-up began under Bush, under George Bush. Isn't that wild to think about it? Now, you'll notice that none of them name names, and there's a reason for that. Listen to Congressman Thomas Massey explain it.
Here, people say, well, why isn't it easy to come out as a victim? And when I was at this press conference with these women, the depth of the evil I didn't understand until they spoke it, which was as 14-year-old girls, they were told by a friend at high school, come over to this old guy's house, give him a massage, and you can make $200. By the way, he's got a nice swimming pool and all this other stuff. All you got to do is give him a massage. The massage turned into something else completely, and he had their phone number, and then through the shame of it, he compelled them to show up at his beck and call whenever he wanted. And this is where it gets really evil. The only way they could get out of it, of showing up and performing sexual favors for Jeffrey Epstein, was if they found another girl at their high school who would do it in their place. And so they were coerced into, and one of the witnesses, survivors, broke down in tears because she admitted, she just said, listen, I was faced with finding a girl for him to take my place or going back there and doing that, and I found another girl. And so what happens is now, and people are still doing this, even after they know these are 15-year-old girls who were coerced into it by an adult man. They're saying, oh, you were a sex trafficker. You trafficked these women.
Now, this tracks because he goes on to say the reason they don't actually name the names right now is because these people were powerful and rich, and they had the government in their pocket. So even if these people went to authorities, well, then the authorities would not help them because the authorities were in on it. They knew. Also, they would sue them. They were using lawfare to keep them silent. What tracks about this is the way that it played out was that Palm Beach County's Democratic prosecutor, Barry Kirshner, he only charged Epstein with 1 count of soliciting prostitution, and he offered Epstein probation when he was first caught in 2007, 2008. The government actually called these women prostitutes because Epstein forced them into those roles. And even though they had several of them, he only charged him with 1. And again, he didn't call that person a victim. He called that person a prostitute. So after attacking Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene over the weekend, what has the president done? After resisting this, calling a hoax, saying we don't need to see this, well, now the president says, okay, actually, we should vote to release this. He's calling on all Republicans to vote in favor of it. He says we need to get back on point. I don't care about this. Let's just do it. We have nothing to hide, blah, 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 blah. Well, we know that he can change his mind. Why? Because now the Justice Department can run an investigation to thwart this public release. You'll see that over the weekend, Attorney General Pam Bondi said, We got it, Mr. President. We're on it. I've asked SDNY attorney Jay Clayton to lead this investigation. Okay, so after telling us we don't need an investigation, I've seen everything. Epstein had no clients. He only was really into young girls for himself, plus porn on his laptop. That's what she told us when she said she saw everything. Now she's saying, let's investigate. Got it. And I got just the guy. Well, here is the guy that she has asked, Jay Clayton. He's currently a prosecutor for the Southern District of New York. Now, here's what Whitney Webb says about him. And I can prove that this is true because, hang on, she says that he is one of the most, he has proximity to Epstein's clients because he has worked for Leon Black, who paid Epstein millions and was mentioned many times in the Epstein files, who is presumably, we think probably, a client, had some dirty business with. So his proximity to Leon Black is a problem. Also, he's mentioned by Epstein, Jay Clayton is, in this email to his executor of estate, Richard Kahn. He's talking about how all of these people had advised him on certain things. Here he says, Jay Clayton, who has advised on numerous major deals to lead the SEC, who has he advised? Epstein is writing about Jay Clayton. Did he know him? Like, literally, was there nobody who could run this investigation who had no ties to Epstein? So Pam Bondi has now put in place what Whitney Webb said is that originally the Trump administration wanted Jay Clayton to run the Justice Department investigation after Epstein was originally prosecuted so that they could have their own person in. They were not able. Now they're able because Pam Bondi is doing it the way Bill Barr was not able to. And now we have a fox in the hen house. So we have someone who has a conflict of interest, is mentioned in Epstein's emails, who is running the investigation. So what does that look like will happen? Well, Congress will vote to release the files, and that will be symbolic. It will mean nothing because the Justice Department now will launch a new investigation that either delays, buries, or redacts the very documents that would tell us the whole story. And in fact, Massey's bill allows for that. Look at the bill right there. It says that the Attorney General may withhold or redact portions of the records that would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution, providing that such withholding is narrowly tailored and temporary. So they've checkmated. You guys, we can't get through it if there's a new investigation. There's nothing we can do. Do you see what's happened here?
Right, because they can say all of this is under an active investigation, and who's to say? I mean, because the FBI on a regular basis basically tells us that they don't tell us anything, right? So they can say that all of this is under an active investigation, just like Thomas Matthew Crooks, or just like just like anything else that's going on. So they can lump it all under, and then most of the stuff will then be redacted. So how much of this are we actually going to get?
Yeah, and so tomorrow, don't let yourself be played by your emotions when you see this vote, because now Republicans have been told that they are allowed by President Trump to vote for this. Democrats will vote for it because their base wants it. So we will get a vote. What it does in the Senate, I don't know yet. I can't predict. They'll vote for it, and then the Justice Department will hold it as they already are doing. Now, all of this is a rigmarole because the Justice Department could just give it right now without a new investigation. There's nobody that they don't have. They're not like, oh, all of a sudden Lex Wexner exists in this world. Maybe we should look. No, they've already chosen not to talk to him. Epstein's main financier gave him a house. They've chosen not to. They have information. They're choosing not to. So anyway, if you're fooled by this, you see these MAGA influencers like, yeah, President Trump, he finally gave us what we want. Don't do it, girl. Do not be bought in by this, because this is what's happening. Does the American public who wants this have another move? If so, I don't see it. Let me know what you think.
A lot of people in the chat. What do you guys think in the chat room? A lot of people saying, have Whitney Webb on. Yeah, I was messaging with Whitney this morning. She is in bed with a fever right now. So she's going to try to join us on Wednesday. I'd love to have her on Wednesday, because then this will be post-vote, basically, so we'll be able to have a discussion with her on that. So hopefully she can join us there. But how much of this do you think we're going to see? How much of this? You guys have TDS
This has nothing to do with how we
Steven
feel
says.
about Trump. Stop it. This is about what we're actually going to see. We care about these deep state actors being stopped from doing this again.
Cypher says, yeah, this channel is a gatekeeping operation. I always love when people tell us that we're an operation for something. You're controlled opposition. You're a gatekeeper for an op. You're not. What for who? What are you talking about? Gatekeeping for what?
What are we gatekeeping?
I don't know, but make a substantive response to what I just said about how the government has checkmated the Epstein files. And then we'll talk about that. And then you tell me what I'm purposely leaving out. How
Because
about
you
that?
got to imagine, right? So Trump's getting slammed online, right? Absolutely destroyed by the right, who are saying, no, Mr. Trump, like, you don't go after Massey about all of this. We want to see the Epstein files. So all of these members of Congress who then have to go on the record and actually vote, they're going to get hammered if they don't. Now he's just given them cover. He's given them political cover that they can all vote for it.
Yeah.
Right? But then when we get the files, they're going to be redacted.
Right.
So it's a brilliant sort of political move here. Like, who are they hiding? Who are they covering? And then Pam Bondi can step in and have redactions all over the damn place.
Look, people who have TDS hate Trump because abortion and ICE and all kinds of things that they think are going to threaten them, knock on their door. They don't actually study those things, right? We are criticizing something that was promised by the administration, but is an extension of, again, the Bush administration that started to protect Epstein. Followed up loyally by Obama, followed up loyally by Trump, followed up loyally by the Biden administration. So this has nothing to do with any one administration at all. Philip, what were you going to say?
Well, I'm just curious. So, like, I'm looking at like the political football here, and like, so if the Justice Department then decides like they're going to investigate, so they can't release some of the information because there are active investigations. But if I would assume that they're going to politically just target Democrats, does that mean that any Republicans that are in the Epstein, I almost said redacted files, in the Epstein files are going to be available, or are they going to have to investigate them too to keep that from coming out?
I mean, you would think, right? It has to be. It's clearly a bipartisan effort to protect powerful people. I do think that it hinges heavily in the Democratic Party, that more Democrats were, and Epstein was a Democratic donor. And at the time when he was trafficking girls, Donald Trump was a member of the Democratic Party too. So these would be people who would be close to him and had been for decades. Democrats have more to lose, but we lose when we think of it this way. It's not a partisan issue. And again, now we've had, well, let's count them. 2 and 2, Bush, 2 and 2, 2 Republicans and 2 Democratic administrations that have protected this demon.
Yeah.
So.
All right, let us know your thoughts on this. We got a lot more news to talk about today. We got a very busy show on this Monday. We're going to talk about Mexico's civil war. It's a revolution. Or is it? Or is nothing actually happening? And people are living their lives peacefully, and a lot of people are angry about cartel violence. But we're going to sift through the propaganda on that story in a moment. We're also going to talk about Thomas Matthew Crooks and the cover-up there. Why is the FBI hiding information about his online presence? Why did they cremate his body so darn quickly when members of Congress were coming to investigate and wanted to see his body? All of that and more in just a moment. But first, this, my friends, is a stop box. Yes, it is. This is a stop box that I've got in my right hand. And if you've got a gun in your house, this could be the best way to actually protect your firearms and get access to it if you need it. No, none of that like biometric scanning and all of that stuff. You can just use your fingers, yes, in an analog way, and you can open this device. It even has like little rubber feet on the side of this, on the back of it, so it sits right next to your bedstand, and it won't slide if you need to get access to it quickly. So what is a stop box? Well, it's if you can't stand having like keys and all of those things, and you don't want to use the biometric scanning, the stop box is a perfect way for you to put your handgun next to your bed, and storage that fits, right by your side, so you can rely on it if you need it in the quickest way possible. And make sure that it's in reach during an emergency. Stopbox USA saw the problem designed with all of these, firearms. Like, oh, you're going to keep them in your closet in some sort of a safe that you've got to go through a whole combination process and get access to it? No. Or what about the biometrics? What's very often doesn't work. If you've ever tried one of those biometric safes, you're getting errors on a regular basis. Now imagine if you're nervous or scared in the middle of the night, something happens and you're not calm, cool, and collected, and you put your finger there nicely so it registers. That's where they notice the problem. You'll never have to choose between security and readiness again. It's an ingenious push-button locking system, gives you fast, reliable access when every second matters, without the hassle of keys or the reliance on batteries. It's 100% mechanical, so it works every time, no power needed. With Stopbox USA, you can finally have both security and readiness. The Stopbox Pro mechanical keyless system allows for fast, secure access without the risk of fumbling for keys when every second counts. So the holidays just got a little safer and a lot more affordable. For a limited time only, our listeners get a crazy deal. Not only do you get 10% off your entire order when you use the code redacted10 at stopboxusa.com, but they're also giving you a buy one, get one free right now for their Stopbox Pro. That's 10% off and a free Stopbox Pro when you use the code redacted10. That's right. So just go to stopboxusa.com/redacted and use that code redacted10 to get some nice savings there. All right. Yeah, so the damn dog. So let me just tell you, we get quite a windstorm today, and our dog, our little mini pincher, he just gets out. He just goes around the neighborhood chasing prairie dogs like crazy. So
and killing rabbits.
Yeah, killing rabbits. And so he just returned. We just heard him tear into the studio. He's like, hey guys, I'm back. Great. No.
He always does it when he knows when Redacted is live because we can't chase him.
Yeah.
So he'll come in when we're both tethered to a chair.
This is that's the Grover bed. Sorry about that. I used my Stream Deck for that. Philip, can you switch the camera back to that? Sorry.
That's not the dog.
Yeah, there it is. So that's his dog bed. He's not here. He's MIA at the moment, but he's just running around now that he's got cleaned up. Okay, more news to get to here. So if you were to listen to voices in alternative media over the weekend, you would have likely heard that Mexico is descending into civil war. This is Mexico City. Oh my gosh, the government of Claudia Sheinbaum is collapsing. This is the end of Claudia Sheinbaum. This is the end of this corrupt government. There's a revolution happening right now. Massive protests that are tearing the government down. It's a revolution. They're telling us an uprising, a color revolution also we heard this weekend, but that doesn't seem to be the case at all when you listen to actual journalists like Derek Brose who live and work in Mexico. Here's Derek covering some of that news this weekend following the protesters and the assassination of Carlos Manzo, who was the mayor of Uruapan. Watch.
Hola a todos, soy Derek Brose con Resistencia Consciente, and I'm here in Morelia, Michoacán, Mexico, where there's a protest going on right now against violence. Last week, there was an assassination of a local mayor in Uruapan, 2 hours away.
Sí, pues ella tiene la fortuna de que todo este año va a estar ahí participando, entonces, mira, aquí.
And of course, that was the moment when the mayor of Uruapan was assassinated. Independent journalist Derek Brose joins us from Morelia, Mexico, to talk about what's really going on there. Derek, great to have you here. I wanted to have you on because you're able to cut through all the bullshit and give us the truth about what's actually happening there. President Trump, just about 30 minutes ago, was asked about it, said very bad stuff, what's happening in Mexico City. He'd be open to bombing Mexico as part of stopping the flow of drugs. So we're hearing color revolution. We're hearing that the government is collapsing. What is actually happening?
Yeah, thank you guys for giving me a chance to try to cut through it. Like you said, Clayton, there's a lot of misinformation going on this weekend. And I hate to say it, but if you were to do a search using any mainstream search engine like Google about what happened this weekend, the mainstream is a bit more accurate than a lot of people in the alternative media, particularly those on Twitter who have been claiming civil war, revolution. I've heard everything from this was an uprising against the communist Chinese-backed president to it's all fake. And then, of course, the administration, they have their own theories. But I think the reality is a bit closer to what you said a moment ago, that this was a movement that was really largely sparked by that assassination of Carlos Manzo, which happened on the Day of the Dead, November 1st. And people, especially the younger generation, who are growing up with phones in their hands and can see what life is like in other countries are increasingly sick of the cartel violence, which unfortunately the state that I live in, Morelia in Michoacan, it is some parts of the state are one of the more dangerous areas of the country, Western Michoacan, which is where Urapan's at. And it's important for people to understand that Carlos Manzo, he ran independently. So he was not a part of the Morena party, which Claudia Sheinbaum's a part of, or any of the opposition parties. He was an independent candidate for mayor, and he won by a landslide last summer in Urapan, and he was put into office in September. And he was openly saying he was going to do something about cartel violence. He was actually riding along with the local police, going on these ride-alongs and confronting cartel members. He was also kind of taking some controversial stances, saying that the Mexican people should be allowed to arm themselves, and also saying that cartel members, people who are perpetrators of this violence, should be shot and killed on sight. Claudia Sheinbaum was speaking against him and saying this is not the way we want to go. And he repeatedly asked for the federal government to send more troops and more help to Urapan and toward that part of Michoacan. And unfortunately, for the most part, his requests were denied. And as that video you showed a moment ago showed, on the Day of the Dead, November 1st, even though he was surrounded by some armed police officers, he was shot and killed. And that led to massive protests the next day on November 2nd here in Morelia, where people stormed the governor's palace, and they did, there was some violence. Of course, like typically, the majority of the protest was peaceful. There was a few people who broke in and committed violence. And then from that led to another call for protest on November 15th, which we saw this weekend. So all of that preceded everything that happened this weekend. And I think that's a lot of the context that people are missing. And unfortunately, people who are maybe just out for clicks are promoting this as this revolution, this civil war, when the protest lasts for a couple hours and then life went back to normal in Mexico.
Because they don't really have the power to affect any change. What is President Sheinbaum's position, against the cartel? Is like, get along to go along seems really her policy.
She's continuing the policy of her predecessor, which is AMLO, who was part of the same party. And he was very popular despite his unpopular stance on the cartels, which was hugs, not guns. That was sort of the motto that he had. And essentially the reason his party has taken that stance in the past years, and Sheinbaum is continuing it, is because the presidents before them, Vicente Fox and others, they took a more hardline approach, you might say, and it did lead to more violence across Mexico. So there are many people who believe, look, the strategy of taking on the cartels head on is not, it's not going to work. It's just going to lead to more violence. So even as these protests were happening, Claudia Sheinbaum was like, I'm sorry, Carlos Manzo was killed, but his approach was wrong. We need to be, they say that the way they want to go is we need to invest in the people. We need to make sure people, like the youth especially, have resources so that they don't get pulled into the cartels. And I can understand that, that mentality that, give more support for the people, many of whom are in poverty. And of course, when poverty happens, poverty can breed desperation, and that desperation can mean, well, maybe I have a better life in the cartel, or the cartels use that poverty as a way to recruit young people, including the reports say that it was a 17-year-old meth addict who's the one who actually killed Carlos Manzo. And some believe acting on the behalf of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. So that's her approach, is like, let's invest in the people. And again, I could understand that, but the criticism is basically that this is just an excuse, because there are many people who believe the Morena party and Claudia Sheinbaum are deeply linked to the cartel, and this is just them, protecting their partners.
So any truth to the idea that there's a color revolution, some sort of a revolution backed by maybe the United States? Then you have President Trump today coming out and being asked specifically about it, saying how bad things are in Mexico City. He would be happy to bomb Mexico if it involved drugs coming into the United States. He said that. So, would the United States be backing any kind of a regime change operation? We've heard those rumors this weekend as well.
So at the moment, there's no other figure who has kind of stepped up like we see in Venezuela. Somebody saying, hey, I'll replace Maduro if you get rid of him. That doesn't exist at the moment, but obviously there are other opposition parties to the Morena party. But again, some more context people need to understand is that over the last year, the Morena party has, obviously they have control of the presidency. They have largely the control of the military, the National Guard. But earlier this summer, there was also a big vote which was promoted as to give the people more power. The people are going to have the ability to vote on judges. It was the first time in the country's history that people will be able to elect the judges. And it was largely seen, though, as a ploy by the Morena party to sort of say, hey, you have more freedom, but in reality, for them to get all of their own people into these judges' positions so then they could effectively get control of the courts. That law did pass, and many people believe now Morena and their allies are in control of the courts. So Claudia Sheinbaum, as far as this color revolution idea, she tried to portray the idea that this alleged Gen Z protest was really being perpetrated by some of her political enemies, namely this billionaire Salinas, who has TV companies behind him, and he's got a lot of wealth behind him. She was saying that it was just him tied to international right-wing figures that are trying to take her down. So there's that sort of theory coming from the government. And another theory that I think we should keep an eye on is this idea that what we're witnessing in many parts of the world, not just Mexico, but Nepal more recently, Indonesia, the Philippines, that there are these Gen Z protests that are popping up, which, again, I think people are legitimately upset about different things in their home countries. But one of the things you start to see is this Jolly Roger, or it's called the One Piece flag. It's the skull and crossbones with a little straw hat. And not to get too deep in the weeds, but it comes from an anime comic, and people say that it's a symbol of the people standing up against tyranny. But it also is making some people sort of say, why is this symbol potentially organically, potentially not organically, popping up in countries all around the world, at protests all around the world? And there definitely was a big presence of that flag in Mexico. There was a giant flag that some of the protesters had rolled out. And in my own travels and interviews I've done here in Morelia, talking to the younger generation, I'd see some of them wearing that flag on pins or on their backpacks and things like that. It could be a case that this symbol is just because of the internet. It's traveling quickly and widely, and people are truly seeing it in other protests and saying, hey, let's adopt that symbol. But because of the color revolutions we've seen in the past, where different colored flags, the orange revolution, the pink revolution, seem to pop up, and we later learn, okay, there was somebody who was trained by the CIA or trained by NED or USAID, it is causing some people to wonder, like, is that happening in other countries in the world? And is it now starting to make its way to Mexico? But for me personally, I don't think we have solid evidence of that. And again, when I talk to the Mexicans on the ground here, because I've been here 5 years, I'm not born and raised in Mexico, but my family is from here a few generations back. The young generation is just sick of it. They don't want to grow up and accept the idea that the cartel violence and this connection between the cartels and government is the norm. And then just one other thing that I think we'd be remiss not to mention is the fact that we know without a doubt, there's numerous books on this and some great reporting you can find from Covert Action magazine showing that, for example, the Jalisco New Generation cartel, some of their ex-members have said that they were trained by U.S. Special Forces, that they were trained by former Marines. And so there's this whole other aspect, especially with what Trump is saying now, of whether or not these cartels did receive funding and still do receive funding from U.S. interests, and if some of the violence is instigated in order to give the U.S. the reason to say, hey, we need to go in there and invade Mexico, much like what we're seeing in Venezuela.
Yeah, we would never do that, right, Derek? We would never do that, whether it's in, God knows, Ukraine or Hamas or Al-Qaeda or in Syria. Yeah. We don't have any history of doing that, actually working with the guys, giving them, arming them, and then say, hey, how'd you guys get those guns? Let's attack you. So
maybe can you give us a parallel that we might be able to understand what the Jolly Roger symbolizes for people who are sincere about, I mean, it very well could be a deep state plant, but what do people who wear it think that it means? Can we make a parallel to like the Groiper frog? Or not really? It could
be something like that. I think maybe a more apt comparison would be, say, the Guy Fawkes mask during Occupy Wall Street in that sort of era, the 2010s, right, where it becomes this symbol that people pick up and wear all around the world. I think that can happen organically, especially again in the age of the internet, where even in a small town in Mexico, somebody's got their phone, they got TikTok, and they can see what's happening in other countries, and they could say, hey, maybe we want to adopt that. Now, I'm not a manga, anime, comic book fan, so I had to do research to learn about One Piece, but some of my friends I know are well versed in that. And it is basically the story of these pirate kind of rebels who believe in freedom, and occasionally, they're rebelling against some authority figure. So it does have that little bit of kind of mythology to it, and I could see how that could translate, especially for the younger generation, generation to a symbol that could become powerful and useful in that way. Like with most things, I doubt most of the people who are waving those flags and holding them understand that sort of deeper meaning behind it. They might just adopt it because, well, that's what the movement's doing. But yeah, I think it's comparable to things we've seen with the Guy Fawkes mask and some of these other type of symbols. Now, we'll have to wait and see in the coming months if it does lead to not only in Mexico, but to elsewhere. Maybe we will be seeing in the coming months this Jolly Roger, this one piece flag sweeping countries around the world. If that does happen, I will definitely be very skeptical of where things are headed. But again, I just want to reiterate that these things can both happen. There can be both an effort for outside forces, whether it's right-wing interests tied to the Atlas network, like Claudia Scheinbaum is saying, or the CIA or somebody else with the Jolly Roger flag. That can be happening. And at the same time, Mexicans on the ground and Philippine people and elsewhere can genuinely be upset about the conditions that are happening, because there are rising costs of inflation, especially in Mexico. There's a lot of people who don't feel like there's any hope for their future. I mean, that's kind of prominent in Gen Z around the world. So I think that from my view, it is a disservice to the people who are trying to fight for a better life to just say, oh, well, that's just color revolution. Oh, that's just, fake engineered thing. I'm not going to give it any credit or any value. And even for myself, I would say the same thing about the No Kings protest. I don't agree with everybody who is involved in that or all of their issues by any means. But I think to dismiss movements like that and just say, well, it was all funded completely by George Soros and everybody gets a check or something, then that diminishes the people who have legit concerns about where things are headed. Again, with the caveat that I don't have to agree with all of their issues, including here in Mexico, where some of the protesters are waving communist flags, which I don't agree with. But I can also empathize with them and understand, like, okay, they have concerns, whether we agree on the solutions. These are genuine people of all ages who are worried about where their country is headed.
Yeah,
Right.
I feel the same way about MAGA. Like, look, Donald Trump has basically thrown up down the pipeline, but it meant something to them. They believed that he was a punk disruptor, even though he hasn't been. And so you can't demean someone's intentions to reach for a movement that they think is disruptive, no matter what form that takes.
And you also can't discount what Derek was just saying, which is that a lot of times these infiltrators, these USAID, the CIA, these sort of ne'er-do-wells, these funders, the George Soros funding and so forth, they co-opt these movements, which in many ways are organic. Like these people are fed up with the cartel violence. They don't want their government controlled. And then here comes these George Soros co-opted with pre-printed signs and agitators to kind of just jump inside of it and be a part of it, and in many ways undermine it, which is what I hope is not happening here. Derek, great.
So sad.
It does, but bottom line, Derek, no civil war is happening as alternative.
I posted on my Twitter last night because this month in Mexico is Buen Fin. It's kind of like the Black Friday. So the malls are filled with people shopping. I was out couch shopping last night. Life is going about normal. You can go look at the live feed of the Zocalo, the center of Mexico where the protests were. Yesterday was a giant dance with thousands of people. In fact, more people at this dance than there were at the actual protest. Life is going about as normal. Yes, there are these problems happening, but to anybody out there that's hearing on their social media feeds that there's a civil war erupting, revolutions happening because of these clips you saw on Saturday, you're being misled. Life is going about as normal. And I don't think the movement to push back against the cartel violence is going away, but life is generally happening as it does every day.
But no civil war. But thank you for cutting through the BS on this and the propaganda. Derek, always great to see you. Where can people follow your work? You do incredible work.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, my main place for all my work is theconsciousresistance.com, including that report you showed earlier. If anybody wants to see the full report about what's been happening here in Morelia with the violence and the cartel. And I am going to be doing more reporting on this, including probably making a trip to Mexico City to just see where things are headed. So thank you guys for giving me a chance to share what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, great. We'll have you back when you're in Mexico City as well. So thank you.
Also, we're working on a piece together. He's going to be back in December when Avatar comes out, because he has research showing how government agencies are behind Avatar. So before you get excited about that, and that's in your documentary.
The Pyramid of Power.
Yes, thank you. The Pyramid of Power. So I'm looking forward to talking about that.
People can find that at thepyramidofpower.net.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Derek. Great to see you.
All right.
Don't ruin that for Miles because, our son, because he's like, Dad, we have to go see Avatar, the third one, because he wants to see the trailer for the new
ruin
Spider-Man.
everything for everyone. Have you met me?
I'm like, yeah, you can separate yourselves from this. Anyway, somebody in the chat room saying also One Piece. Yeah, One Piece is huge. I mean, it's been around for 30 years. I know some people that are huge. And it's like to start reading a One Piece manga, it's like it's going to take you so many years because it goes back decades. So there's a lot of history there on that. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
All right. Coming up, we're going to talk about a war with Venezuela because we seem to be hot for that. But before we do, we want to tell you about masa chips because this is something we very much enjoy in our house because we are a fan of chips. But, chips are often made with seed oils, which have a high glycemic index. But you can find chips that are made with, what is it? Not the grasa. It is...
Tallow?
Tallow. Thank you. That word just did not want to pop out at me. Beef tallow, which is good for you, which is not an insulin spike. Masa chips are made with beef tallow like chips used to be, and they are delicious. Also, the way that they fry them makes them a whole lot heartier because of the tallow. So they stand up to whatever dip you'd like to expose them to, even a buffalo chicken dip. I know this from firsthand experience. They are delicious. We serve them to teenagers who are very... I would say picky connoisseurs of snacks, and they do really well. They go through them, and they taste incredible, too. So check out masa chips for yourself. You can find them at Sprouts grocery stores, or you can order masachips.com/redactednews. You can scan that QR code if you'd like. Use the code redactednews, and you'll get 25% off your first order. So check them out. I'm excited to tell you about them because... Chips are my bag. Get it? They're my bag.
That's pretty good. Oh, stop. I love chips. That's my weakness. I love chips.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, are we about to go to war with Venezuela? Over the weekend, the U.S. attacked another Venezuelan fishing boat, and Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth bragged about it. Got him. The United States continues to bomb these vessels without any proof. Now, they are able to do that because Secretary of State Marco Rubio says, well, now these are... Are you okay? These are terrorist organizations. We have designated them as terrorist organizations so we can casually do what we want, which is the way we roll. That's the way we do it in the Middle East. We have for decades. So now what does that mean? Well, there is a lot of documented evidence that the United States actually worked with these Venezuelan drug gangs since the 90s. We've known that. We have been complicit. You can read up on the drug trade. The CIA's fingerprints are in every continent, pretty much. Asia, Middle East, South America. So certainly Secretary Rubio knows this. So it's ironic that Washington is labeling terrorism the very trade routes that its own apparatus exploits. But why do we want a war with Venezuela? Is there any way to put this horse back in the barn? Joining us to discuss is the host of The Deep Dive, Colonel Dan Davis, joins us to discuss it. Thank you so much for joining us. What do you think we are playing at, war with Venezuela?
It is really hard to follow. I got to tell you, I had some comments from some folks who have pretty high ties to the Department of, well, I guess war now, over the weekend, said that they thought that there was a pretty good shot that something would happen. Then, of course, thankfully, nothing did. And then toward the end of the weekend, we have President Trump making some really strange statements that, we'll consider talking to Maduro. And when asked by one of the reporters, what would you talk about? He goes, I don't know. What you tell me, And I thought, well, number one, that was really odd. What do you mean you tell me? I'm supposed to be asking you. You're the only one who knows what you would be talking to him about, and especially given that Maduro has already basically begged the Trump administration to take the deal, say, hey, look, man, we'll give you some gold, some access to our oil. I mean, just about anything you would want. Here it is on a silver platter. But I was also told by a different source just earlier this afternoon that apparently what they want to talk about is, hey, how's about you just leave on your own and we don't have to actually go in with military force, and then we'll take whatever we want that way. So I can't vouch for the authenticity of this or the accuracy. All I know is that publicly, the president isn't saying what he wants to talk to him about, but we didn't have any action there. And I can just tell you militarily, there is no really attainable military objective that has anything to do with American national security or with the drug trade. It's all just a complete fabrication just to make people, I don't know, I guess happy isn't the right word, but placated perhaps.
Right.
You pointed out there that there's really no path to interdicting the drug trade right there. And by the way, and I've gotten a lot of pushback myself and people saying, oh well, the Secretary of State designated them as a terrorist organization, so that means you can literally go kill anyone. And I've said, okay, look, just that guy just saying, all right, here, I have signed a piece of paper that I have just claimed that their terrorist organization is not a license to go kill people that you don't like. It just doesn't exist. That's what we do, but it's not just, it's not lawful. And it's I mean, we got to call it what it is. It's summary execution because you don't like the people, and that's where it is.
What it feels like to me is that either we are collectively getting smarter about the government excuses to bomb people and start wars, or their excuse is getting stupider. Which one do you think it is?
I think both.
It is no question the second one. It is not even stupider. They're just putting a thinner and thinner fig leaf on the top because they don't care. And listen, people are getting away with everything. I mean, one of the things that has me kind of aggravated right now is just this afternoon the Republicans are openly saying, hey, I want to gerrymander congressional districts so that we can have more elections, and the Democrats are doing the same thing, and both sides are just putting fig leaves on top of it while they're disenfranchising people in both of the states, and now then apparently other states. Trump was complaining about Indiana today and that he's threatening people there. So now then you can just put fig leaves on nearly anything, and I think that's extended down to here. We don't know what he's really doing down here in Venezuela. All we know is that there is a lot of firepower down there that can kill a lot of people, but not enough to invade a country. So it's unclear to me what you're actually trying to accomplish.
Yeah, someone in the comment, one of our viewers says, does Redacted like drug cartels? Yeah, that's exactly right.
Let them be.
This is something I've been talking. This whole thing about Venezuela is like number 15 or 20 on the list of places where drugs come in. If you're actually looking for drugs and actually trying to protect our people, you'll do one of two things. You'll go after the ones that are at the top of the list, not the ones that are somewhere near the bottom of it. And the second thing is, if you're serious about drug enforcement, which I am a big time advocate of getting this under control, is that you'll do something about the demand side. And we're not even attempting to do anything on the demand side about cutting into why people are doing these drugs, why they're buying them, how they're buying them. You start doing something serious on that, and then I'll believe that maybe you're actually serious about it. Until then, this is just nonsense.
Right. That's right. Exactly right. And so then that begs the question, why? And we know from Trump's first administration that they were pushing for a regime change operation. We had Jordan Godreau on the show, who is now, by the way, gone into hiding. Some would say missing. He's basically gone into hiding. He blew the whistle. We did an interview with him, and then shortly after our interview with him, he went into hiding. He admitted that the Trump administration specifically had put him and other special forces in charge of a regime change operation inside of Venezuela during his first Trump administration. They were then scuttled and stopped by the CIA, and a number of his guys were killed as a result of it, by the CIA getting involved in this. So this is not like fly by night over the past few weeks. He's been wanting to do this since his first presidency. And a lot of people in the comments saying, of course, why? It's all about oil. It's all about resources. What else would it be? Would it be about Chinese influence in this sphere of influence? I mean, what else would it be?
I haven't. I'll have to go back and look at some of the older your archives and see that interview. But even without that, it was self-evident that the administration tried to do this in Trump's first term, but it was so ham-fisted and so poorly conducted. It was an embarrassment, a humiliation, basically, that we were not able to bring that off, and it just showed the limits of our power. Why would we want to try anyway? And look, and the whole issue about this, well, we want the oil. If it was just about the oil, we had it, because Maduro offered it on a silver platter less than 2 weeks ago, and yet we rejected that out of hand. It sounds to me more like, and it's hard to say that or believe that this may be true, but the evidence is probably supporting this, is that, no, we didn't succeed in getting them regime changed last time, and now that I'm not going to settle until I get them regime changed this time. So I want everything. I don't just want most of it. I want all of it to include the victory of getting Maduro out there. and then we'll go into whatever's next, and then we'll exploit the oil. I don't know. That part's speculation. But when you had Maduro openly and making a statement in English, begging Trump to take all of his stuff and just not take him out, and we rejected that, then that tells me there's more than just oil at stake.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. And as Colonel McGregor, I think, said on our show a couple of weeks ago, strategically, militarily, I mean, first of all, are you going to want to administer Venezuela? Like, you're going to take over this country, and now we're going to run this country essentially? Like, we need that? Like, we need a hole in the head right now? No.
Look. There's a disturbing analogy to Afghanistan in 2001 when we first went in there following 9/11, et cetera. And we went in with a light footprint. We used the local forces here, the Northern Alliance, and then we kind of like said, okay, well, you know what? Let's just help them out a little bit longer. Do some government building operations and nation building, and just a little bit here. And then all of a sudden, now then we start getting attacks, and the other side starts having military operations, and then it just expands off from that. And then we've sunk so many costs, and we can't let them knock us out, so we have to put a little bit. You see where this went before, and every opportunity where we could make the same mistake again or have to leave in embarrassment, and you open up this can of worms, man, it could go sideways any number of different possibilities, and very few that it could go good. Usually these things have a life of their own, and it goes beyond what you could want, and nothing good comes either in the target country or for us, and I just don't understand why we can't learn that lesson.
Philip on our team has a question. Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah. So I'm just like kind of sitting here wondering, like, so this isn't like a theater of war. We're not at war with Venezuela. So you have basically the U.S. Navy out there blowing up these ships, like it's extrajudicial executions. Where is like the military leadership, and maybe this is my naivety, but where is the military leadership that should be ignoring illegal orders, not just flat out refusing to do this? Well, how is it? Like, I could see one, but we're up to like what, 20 of these boats they've hit now?
20. Yeah, over 20 of them.
Yeah, I think that is it. I'm right with you on that. I mean, we have evidence that one, I guess the Southern commander resigned early after 1 year, and the implication are that he didn't like these orders. But there's also evidence that maybe he just wasn't doing it aggressively enough and is actually fired and was allowed to resign. I don't know, but he hasn't said anything. But that is one thing I'm asking the same questions. We are trained from infancy, basically, from second lieutenant for officers, and at the beginning, that we cannot obey unlawful orders. We actually have training frequently throughout my career, and I'm sure it's still the case, to where we have the ethics of war and the laws of land warfare are taught, and we have an obligation not to obey illegal orders. And there's even a plan of how you do that. You have to say, I want to be clarified. Are you ordering me to do X, Y, and Z? And as far as I understand, that is against the laws of war, is that, asking those kind of leading questions to get them to say out loud and then maybe change it, et cetera. But ultimately, if you execute a legal order, you are guilty no matter who gave you the order to do it. If you carry it out, it's just as though you came up with it. And it bothers me, and it troubles me a lot that no one has resigned over this, and it's self-evident that this is outside of any kind of legal framework, and the fact that we keep going down this path and no one resigns is alarming.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Of course, if they say they're not going to do it, Hegseth is going to fire them all. He'll probably do a joint press conference and say these people were disloyal to the United States or something. I mean, I don't know. It's really terrifying.
But it's not unusual to get. He's right. It's not unusual to get resignations over things like this that bother the human conscience. Makes me wonder if they're human.
We're supposed to be, we at least when I retired in 2015, and at least up until that point, we considered it a badge of honor that we were different than other militaries of history, et cetera, that we are ethical, we are moral, and we will not obey illegal and unethical orders. But yet here this is, and no one has taken any action on that, and one has to ask the hard question, are we any different than some of these other regimes that have used military to do unethical things? It's an open question.
Colonel Dan Davis, host of The Deep Dive with Daniel Davis. Great to have you on the show, as always. I guess we'll sort of sit back and wait. What is Trump going to do today on Venezuela? Always great to have you, Colonel. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. See you next time.
Our pleasure.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk about the Thomas Matthew Crooks cover-up, the alleged assassin against President Trump. Also, Ted Cruz wanting to run for president. Will we ever have to say that?
Oh, my God.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do. But, we had one comment that said they liked Ted Cruz. The rest of you don't feel like that's an inevitability. Please, let's pray collectively. Before we do that, though, we want to tell you about our friends over at Lear Capital, because we all know the cost of war is cities leveled, families shattered, lives lost. But here's what is also not said aloud is that war is a theft from the working people. You have to take money from the working class in order to finance wars. And then the Federal Reserve acts as a venture capitalist of every war, taking your money and then financing death. You are complicit whether you want to be or not, but you can actually vote against the U.S. dollar, or at least maybe not vote against, but hedge your money by not investing in U.S. dollars, but tangible assets like gold and silver, because the more inflation, the weaker the dollar is, and your savings loses value. This isn't a scare tactic. It's a wake-up call. So here's what you need to be watching is the skyrocketing U.S. debt. Does not seem to be going down. No one in leadership has the appetite for that. The dollar's using value, but gold and silver are rising for a reason. Goldman Sachs is already predicting that gold could hit $4,500 an ounce by the end of the year, and it is on pace to do it. Why? Because that is smart money moving. Central banks, billionaires, institutional investors, they are investing in metals and protecting themselves, and so are we. Our investment portfolio, we did start investing when we told you about this years ago, is doing very well, more than I ever thought. In fact, I never thought I would see $4,000 an ounce gold, but here we are. So now it's your turn to act, and it's not too late. If you call Lear, they will help you learn how to do this with whatever you've got. Go to learredacted.com, or I would suggest you call the number on your screen, because there are people, really smart, educated, studied people sitting by waiting to teach you how to do this. So call them at 800-613-3557. And if you do, you could receive up to $15,000 in free bonus medals with a qualified purchase. Once again, it's learredacted.com. No one's going to protect your money but you. Do it now before the next crisis hits. Also, I saw today that mortgage foreclosures are starting to rise. You know what that means. That means that the perverted system, this belief system that we have about the value of the U.S. dollar, is imploding before our very eyes. So hedge your bets. Learn to invest in metals. You'll be glad you did. LearRedacted.com.
All right. Help me out here. You can take some chats here. I'm just trying to get something done. Can you
yes.
do some super chats here?
Let's see. So I am on the hunt for who votes for Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham. Also, Eric Adams taking his trip to Israel this week. He told Israel that I was a mayor for New York City and for Israel. That's weird, right? Do the people of New York vote for their politicians to represent Israel? So I'm just looking through here to see who likes Ted Cruz. Who would put that guy into office? How does he continue to be elected when he has outright said, my number one job is to advocate for Israel as an elected representative of Texas? Where do those overlap? So
I think those people are in for a rude awakening the next election, to be honest.
You think that, but I think that your enthusiasm might be based on the discourse, and then we might be disappointed. I don't know. I just feel like the discourse is not reliable.
Yeah, I don't know, because the discourse is getting exponentially bigger. Like, it just keeps expanding and expanding. I see like people that were hardcore Trump supporters at the beginning voted for him 3 times, and now they're like, we're done. I mean, I'm seeing it. Like, I think it's going to be worse than they think.
Yeah. I can't, read the temperature of online discourse and really make much of it anymore, especially knowing how manipulated it is. Like, I don't follow Eric Adams. Why do I have to see him touching the wall in Israel? Right? And so I can't trust what is organic anymore just because I've seen it in my feed. Yeah. So, because somebody elects Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham. So I just don't know what data points to use any longer right now. So anyhow.
Well, it's hard to compete with these senators that have so much money.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to unseat a sitting U.S. senator. It's It almost never happens because the amount of money that pours in there, they just can't stop it. It's a machine. So, all right, let's talk about this. New revelations about Trump's would-be assassin, Thomas Matthew Crooks, which we'll get into in a minute. But first, something very strange is going on with the official FBI story around Trump's assassination attempt. And their ongoing stonewalling of releasing this information. So we have some new information today that I want to go over. So let's look at this. Crooks' autopsy was allegedly performed on July 14th. We know that because the medical examiner's report that shows us the date right there, July 14th. Right there on your screen. Now, of course, as you see here, the official autopsy wasn't signed, though, until August 5th. So that discrepancy has stood out to me for a little while, and I'm still stunned as to why exactly that is the case, because this date is going to become very important in a moment. They performed the autopsy, allegedly, literally the day after the attempted assassination on President Trump. But here's where it goes from suspicious to outright insane. Thomas Crooks's body was then, of course, allegedly cremated on or around July 23rd, just 10 days after the shooting. And the FBI then had full custody of the body the entire time. As Tucker Carlson reported in his new documentary that he just dropped late last week, they released it for cremation before the public, of course, knew about it. And this is the key, before Congressman Clay Higgins even got a chance to view the body on August 5th when he arrived in town. Watch.
Congressman Clay Higgins of Louisiana, a former police officer, traveled to Butler to conduct his own investigation into what happened. When he arrived, he discovered a disturbing fact. The FBI released Crooks's body for cremation 10 days after July 13th. This wasn't known to the public until Higgins arrived in Butler on August 5th, when the coroner told the congressman, quote, he would never have released Crooks's body to the family for cremation or burial without specific permission from the FBI. The timing of Crooks's cremation is notable. The day Crooks's body was burned was also the day the House Homeland Security and Oversight Committees had begun their investigations into the shooting. The fact the body was cremated made it impossible for investigators outside the FBI to verify the coroner and autopsy report. You can't do a new tox screen because the body doesn't exist.
So Higgins found out, of course, when he got there in early August that the body was gone. It was burned. And interestingly, on July 19th, Senator Josh Hawley came to town. So the heat was on at the time. Here was his post on July 20th. Here I am standing about where President Trump was on that day, and you can see the low-slung building, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see the timestamp there. He posted these the day after he was there on July 19th. And turns out, according to Senator Josh Hawley, the FBI was pissed. They were not happy that senators were showing up there. The FBI was pissed at Senator Hawley for even being there. Senator Hawley said the FBI wouldn't let him examine the water tower. And they asked his team to leave the area. They demanded my team leave. The American people deserve the truth, and we will get it. We need answers, but the FBI didn't want me there. Okay. Did Hawley also ask to see the body of Crooks on July 19th? That's unclear, and we're trying to get some answers on that. We're trying to get some more answers from Senator Hawley's office on that particular point. Was it only Congressman Higgins that asked on August 5th when he arrived? So did Senator Hawley on the 19th ask to do that? Because at that point, according to the official documents, his body was still there. The FBI still had authority over his body, and it hadn't yet been cremated. So, whoa, Senator Hawley is sniffing around town. We better get this body burned before anyone else comes to town. And then Higgins comes to town, and that's already burned, gone. The chief medical examiner, Dr. Goldschmidt, sworn testimony confirms the body was released on July 22nd. During Goldschmidt's testimony, he said, quote, and you can see here in his opening statement, and he addresses the committee on this, lays out who he is, the chief medical examiner for Allegheny County in Pennsylvania. But towards the bottom of his statement, he says this: once I received the results of the toxicology testing, which was performed by our laboratory, I completed a written autopsy report, which was signed and delivered to Butler County. Our office's involvement in the case concluded on July 22nd. when Mr. Crooks' body was released to a funeral home, pursuant to the directives of the Butler County coroner. So he says he signed that document on the 22nd. That his office, when they concluded their autopsy report, said they concluded and had signed it on the 22nd. So was he lying to Congress? Because as you see, the autopsy date was the 14th. If he concluded it on the 22nd, then why does it say August 5th? Why was it not signed until after his body was cremated? Okay. It's interesting. And the kicker in all of this, though, is you have this delay. Why this weird delay? Why this weird delay? And why the quick destruction of this body when we still hadn't concluded any kind of investigation? Why the delay? What were they doing in that gap of time? That's what I'd like to know. Why cremate the body before the autopsy was even finalized? Because if August 5th is when you're officially signing that it was completed, then why burn the body on the 23rd? Like, what were you doing in those subsequent 2 weeks? And why did the FBI wipe the crime scene completely clean the next day? As you know, of course, the FBI photos of the FBI guys on the rooftop spraying hose water down to get rid of all of the blood and tissue on the top of the roof. It's very odd. Why would you do that so quickly after the next day? The next day, you're cleaning up the crime scene. And then when Josh Hawley is sniffing around, you have a problem with him sniffing around. You can't go up on that water tower. You can't examine that. You can't look at that. Get out of here. A sitting U.S. senator? Okay. So the autopsy says Crooks was shot in the mouth and through his head. So there would have been blood on that roof. There would have been tissue samples. Does the FBI have that? Do they have those samples? You know, as Tucker asked in his documentary, when they were doing the autopsy, did they take spinal fluid? Did they take brain tissue samples? Did they take all of those pieces as well, which would be a part of any normal investigation like this? So you could confirm blood samples and DNA? Do they have it? So none of this adds up unless, of course, you assume the thing that they wanted most was for no one, including Clay Higgins, to ever see that body. And remember the photos taken of the autopsy. At the autopsy, they've still never been released. We've never seen those either. And by the way, we also learned from Dr. Goldschmidt that there were handprints taken of Thomas Crooks. Dr. Goldschmidt says those were taken before he even received the body. And he was confirmed that those had been taken. I guess you would see that there's ink on the hand, but he was told and they were, so we have handprints. So therefore, then we have fingerprints as well. But of course, we haven't received any of this information. And as Tucker pointed out in his documentary, Kash Patel said we'd get that info during the trial. They didn't want to run ahead of the trial. But what trial are you talking about? Crooks is dead. So who's going to be held? Like, when is this trial going to happen, by the way? And who's going to be tried? I would really like to know who's going to be tried in all of this. What trial exactly are we talking about? And then Miranda Devine this morning explaining how the FBI and Secret Service butchered this investigation from day one and how they hid information about his online presence. And according to her sources, in a new bombshell today, Crooks had a furry fetish and was into exploring gender identity. Quoting her piece, like alleged Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson, Crooks appeared to have been interested in furries and exploring gender identity. He described himself with the pronouns they, them on the platform known as DeviantArt, which is one of the biggest online hubs for furry art and furry community. 2 accounts linked to Crooks' primary email were found on DeviantArt under usernames Epic Microwave and the Epic Microwave. The account suggests he had an obsession with scantily clad cartoon characters sporting muscle-bound male bodies and female heads. Okay. So, yeah, he was wondering, like, is that part of like some sort of a psychological operation, or is that, is this really who this kid was? Because at first, he, years ago, he was saying kill Democrats. Then he completely switched and became like kind of a violent leftist. So what is it now? Now he's a furry, like a transgender furry? So Tucker says the FBI does not want the public to see Crooks' online footprint, the videos, the comments, the Google Drive folders, the violent material, and that their public statements claiming the kid left no evidence of motive are just simply not true. They're total lies. And the FBI knew this. So why were they lying to us? And now you combine that with the physical evidence timeline, autopsy July 14th, the body released on July 22nd, cremated the next day on the 23rd immediately, crime scene erased 24 hours after the event, hosed down by the FBI, and the autopsy not even signed until August 5th, almost 2 weeks after the body was burned. Then a senator shows up demanding answers, and the number one piece of evidence is already ash. It's already gone. It's already disappeared. So all that to say, you know, where do things stand now with this? The FBI is still stonewalling. They did come out and try to release some information after Tucker's documentary, but it was basically admitting that they had been lying to us. So, you know, you have to look at some people saying, oh, this wasn't his body at all, that this was this guy Yerrick, that it was not Matthew Crooks at all. It's a totally different body. What body was burned that day? There are some people believe, and sources I've spoken to here at Redacted, who believe that it wasn't Thomas Matthew Crooks' body cremated at all. It was a totally different body.
Well, so and that would track based on how fast they did it. Like if it was his body, right? Then why would they cremate it so fast? That just shows there's something to hide there. It's not like they were going to do any, you know, like identifiers for specific things, but like the body itself. Like, just show us the body itself so they can verify that it was indeed him.
Or shows the autopsy photos, which you apparently have. I mean, you take photos during an autopsy. We also have his handprints, right? So we could verify those as fingerprints. None of it. And then on top of it, of course, the quick move to blame Iran for these attacks. Very quick. And of course, he was searching online for Jack Ruby. So how do you want to cover up a patsy story as quickly as you possibly can? Well, have this guy get shot and killed immediately, and then you clean up the crime scene. You clean up everything as quickly as you can, so that we can't question anything. And it's Iran. Of course, that story. That's the thing I think with now with social media and with us being so aware of these false flags, that we immediately said that was total bullshit. There's zero evidence that Iran had anything to do with it. Roger Stone, friend of the president, came right out and said that that's a lie. Iran has nothing to do with this. And if you believe that, you're an idiot. But of course, they wanted us to believe it because, hey, you know, that helps us get into a regime change war in Iran pretty quickly after that. And if you think, oh, we would never do that, we did a few months later. So, yeah, that was coming whether, I guess, he was shot or not, and whether this whole story panned out or not. So, you know, I'm just hoping the FBI, this FBI has been under Kash Patel's leadership has been incredibly problematic. And I can only hope that there is some move for transparency on this. We've reached out to Senator Hawley's office on this, so I hope we get a response. And if we do, we will share it with you here on the show. All right, we got more news.
It appears Kash Patel's girlfriend's going to get more protection than the president had on that day.
Yeah, so she now has an FBI SWAT team protection. We just learned this. Actually, I don't think we just learned this. I think Kyle Seraphin, friend of the show Kyle Seraphin, back on October 7th of this year, told us that she was already getting special protection by the FBI almost a month ago. Now the mainstream media is reporting it, and they forget that Kyle reported this like a month ago. Anyway, that's how it usually works. It's like, oh, the New York Times is reporting it. It's like, oh, really? Okay. What about all of us like alternative media who were also reporting it a year before you got your hands on it? And then now it's like, oh, the New York Times is reporting it. Oh, really? Interesting. So, yeah, so his girlfriend will have extra protection now. The country music sensation that she is. Mr. Sotol says in our chat, do you know this was all orchestrated? Now, I know there's some people who believe that Trump wasn't shot at all. that it was a whole psychological operation to install him in the White House. And I haven't seen any evidence of that. I haven't. So,
well, and personally, like, people saying the same thing about Charlie Kirk. Like, Hollywood can't even replicate how that looked, right? I mean, like, you just can't replicate how that went down. Like, it just does not work if you think of it logically.
Yeah. No, I don't buy that part of it. I mean, I'm open to anything. You guys know that I'm open to anything, right? Heck, I got a Sasquatch sign behind me, so I'm open to anything. If you just show me the evidence, like as Thomas Sowell likes to say, just show me the evidence. So where exactly is the evidence? I mean, I've seen some weird video angles from behind. That doesn't prove anything to me. I had, a bunch of friends and sources who were there that day, and they've never claimed that this didn't happen in the way that we think it did actually happen. So, but again, I'm open to it for sure. Hey, we're going to talk about Ted Cruz in a second. New information on Teddy Cruz we're going to talk about in a second. But anyways, let me guys know in the chat room what you guys think. Yeah. Earhart Jack Cook says, you will soon, Clayton. All right, great. Seriously, please show me the evidence that was all staged and that he wasn't actually shot. I'm totally open to it. Please share that with me. Please do. But first, the Fed just dropped interest rates again, further devaluing the U.S. dollar. And boy, a lot of people getting excited for those refinances. I just talked with our banker friend. Says, yep, a lot of people are lining up to do refinances right now. They want to take advantage of that equity in their homes. If you're feeling overwhelmed with like your old bills that you have sitting around and you're, thinking about the holidays coming up, there's no better time than now to get your finances in order. And it's hard to think about the holidays when everything's really expensive as your credit cards are already pushed to the max. Rates dropping now is the time to pay off that debt. And American Financing is helping homeowners access the equity in their home for instant savings. They're saving people just like you an average of $800 a month, and many are seeing rates in the low fives. That's a game changer compared to those sky-high credit cards. And if you start today, you may be able to delay your up to two mortgage payments, giving you extra breathing room for the holidays. It costs absolutely nothing just to get on the phone with them, call them, talk to them, and just go through all the numbers, and they'll let you know, about their salary-based mortgage consultants, and they can walk you through that whole process. American Financing, call them 866-890-8434 today. Again, that's 866-890-8434, or just go to the website americanfinancing.net/redacted. Their NMLS number is 182334. You can check that at nmlsconsumeraccess.org. And those APR rates that are in the fives right now, they start at 6.196% for well-qualified borrowers. So call them today, 1-866-890-8434. Let's see. No scar. Oh, here we go. Paul says there's no scar or missing piece of the ear. No scars. Funny. No scars.
Have you inspected it? And have you gotten up close to inspect Trump's ear? Like, you realize?
Yeah, that's the thing. I haven't gone up like, Mr. Trump, I just want to look at your ear. Next time I talk to him, though, I will. I'm going to be like, looking around the side of his head, like.
Just lean in close, like you're going to whisper something, and then just don't say anything.
Think of all the things that would have to be in place. Like, a man died that day, right? And that person, like, I don't think of the marksman that would be like, okay, when I turn my head, I'm going to look at the map and I'm going to turn my head a specific direction, and I want you to just nick my ear, okay? Don't hit me in the brain, nick my ear. Okay, got it, Mr. President. Like, come on.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and exactly. And by the way, Natalie had to jump out here real quick to go pick up our daughter. But she said, if Trump was shot, wanted that shot, then they shot a man in the audience to make it look real. That's dark. But it is true, like, right? I mean, there's plenty of collateral damage in politics. My God, I mean, just look at all the operations our CIA has run over the years. But
I personally, I don't believe it. I don't believe the official story, but I don't believe it was that it didn't happen. Like, I think it happened, but I don't think it happened the way they told us it happened.
Mike says that
what happened.
That scarless image that you see was a mirror from the other side. They like did a mirror image of his ear. I don't know. You're dumb. He didn't say he was shot. That he wasn't. I don't know if maybe I'm missing your comment here in the chat room. Not really sure. Was it really the nick of an ear? Someone saying that it was not that Corey Compertore was not killed. It was a dummy in the audience. They shot a dummy. Okay.
They just put a dummy right in the middle of all those people. That's like the same. I heard this whole story about how the Charlie Kirk assassination was a hologram. And I was like, people don't understand the technology that goes into a hologram, that would be impossible in that environment. Like, you have to have a very controlled environment for a hologram to look real. Like, I was just like, oh, man, come on.
No, it's there's no.
Well, not to mention they would have had to have swapped out the real Charlie Kirk for the hologram at some point because he was walking the crowd. There's plenty of footage of him walking the crowd that day. At some point, they'd have had to swap out the hologram.
It's a hologram so strong that he was actually shaking hands with people. And holding a microphone, by the way, too.
Throwing hats,
yeah. Grazed his ear. It was a friction burn. I don't know. Crazy says, don't go up to Trump and smell him. I don't know. As you know, like, I've interviewed Trump, I don't know, many times over the years. And every time I've met him, he's always like, first of all, he's taller than me. I'm 6'2", so he's like pretty imposing. But he definitely smells good. You know, you can picture like, you probably got some good cologne. Like, he definitely smells like a man. You know, like, it's not like he's just been
probably
out.
his own cologne called Trump-tastic or something.
I would think, yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about this. So I couldn't pass this up. Ted Cruz running for president. Yeah, Axios out with a exclusive report today. I mean, first of all, who couldn't have seen this coming? He already ran for president. He ran against President Trump. Ran against like everything that President Trump stood for, essentially, by the way. And got shellacked as a result. So he is now set to run in 2028, according to Axios. He's been in meetings and, talking with different individuals. And apparently, so here's the, I don't know if he's denying it or not, but I'll get to like what his platform, like how he plans to make this move. I don't know if he's reading the room properly or not, but here he was this morning on Fox News sort of addressing this in this new Axios report, and he didn't like shy away from it. Watch.
You might be making some news. Axios led its morning newsletter with this headline: Scoop, Cruz eyes 2028 run. Senator Cruz, where are you on that?
Reporters are going to write headlines that get clicks and get eyeballs. I got a job. It's representing 31 million Texans, and it's fighting every day for 31 million Texans. And I'll tell you right now, the wins we are getting are historic. The one big, beautiful bill you were talking about just a minute ago, I was blessed to write major portions of that bill.
So it's just reporters. By the way, it's not just a reporter. Like, I believe it was Mike Allen. I'm just going to confirm that from the morning note. But plugged in people know that he's been meeting with people, and like that word like that kind of travels quickly, just like we heard that Marjorie Taylor Greene might be considering something similar. She's been meeting with different individuals about a potential run. So this stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. Like, absolutely, this message would get out and people would be fully aware that Ted is like floating the idea. But here's the key. Go ahead.
I was just saying, do you actually think he thinks he can win? Like, do you think he actually is that deluded?
Oh yeah, because here's the thing with these people: they're surrounded by sycophants, right? They're surrounded by people who elevate them and tell them that their crap don't stink all the time. They have no one to sort of gut check them. You think about the last time he ran against Trump, he got shellacked. So now he would base if JD Vance runs, he's going to run against JD Vance. So you see the stage that's been set here. And now, I don't know if you noticed over the weekend, you had this report about Barry Weiss and Ben Shapiro and all of these, Israeli first Zionists who were basically meeting with J.D. Vance, telling him to disavow Tucker Carlson, or he's going to not be able to run in 2028. So all of these stories are sort of lining up. It's like blackmail, or what's the word I'm trying to say? Strong arm tactics. So you have like the Ben Shapiros of the world, Barry Weiss. You have all of these pro-Israel Zionists who are getting together, telling J.D. Vance this weekend, you better disavow Tucker Carlson because he's America first and we need you to be Israel first, basically. You need to distance yourself from him, or we're not going to back you. It's basically the message. Like, we're not going to back you if you stand by Tucker. Well, I got news for you. Like, Tucker and J.D. Vance are good friends. So, and Tucker went out of his way to really push for J.D. to be the vice president. I really supported him as like he believes he's one of the few like genuine U.S. senators. So they're friends. The idea that like J.D. Vance is just going to abandon that, I don't know. We'll see what happens, right? I guess we'll see when push comes to shove what actually happens. But so you had that meeting with Barry Weiss and Ben Shapiro, and they're like trying to strong arm J.D. Vance this weekend. And then at the same time, you get this Axios report that Ted Cruz is going to run for president. And the way in which he's going to do it, this is hilarious to me, is that he is going to basically run using his platform against Tucker Carlson. That he is going to use all of the times he attacks Tucker Carlson as his appeal. Like that people will be attracted to Ted Cruz, according to this Axios piece and other reporting, that he plans to like say, hey, you know, I've really been going toe to toe with Tucker Carlson. So you see how I am against Tucker. Like, that's why you should back me. At the same time, J.D. Vance is like getting a dressing down by Ben Shapiro types. According
they really do not understand the Tarzan effect, because like, look at like every time they're saying like Candace Owens is the #1 podcast in the world. And they've been at her at her throat for weeks, just every post by some of these people. Same with Tucker, and their numbers continue to grow. So they're going to get the opposite effect that they think they're going to get.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say something, Philip, then you go. But every time Ted Cruz like slams, by the way, Ted Cruz, I don't think tweets about anything else right now. Like the only thing Ted Cruz tweets about is Tucker, like these days. So it's all part of his plan. And then every time he tweets about Tucker, he gets a few like, he gets like the Laura Loomers, and he gets Dinesh D'Souza who like praise him and all this stuff. But overwhelmingly the ratio is like, shut the fuck up. Like people are like so sick of Ted Cruz. They're like, you don't know what you're talking about. And so I don't know that he thinks he has as much support as he thinks he does. Go ahead, Philip.
I'm just curious if Ted Cruz ever went back and rewatched that interview he did with Tucker Carlson, because I'm pretty sure Tucker's like swept the floor with him, like it just made him look like an absolute fool. Like I would if I was him, I'd stop bringing that up. I would hope that people didn't equate me with.
He likes to keep bringing it up, and he specifically, in this article, they are specifically pointing to him going toe to toe with Tucker as the reason that he would run for president. So just watch this clip and tell me, who do you think won this? Watch.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population at all. No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah.
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute.
It's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here, because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not
at all.
bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
This is high
Israel.
stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Hey.
Yeah, Ted sure showed him.
Yeah, Ted, you really stuck it to Tucker on that one. We're bombing
and
Iran.
the thing is, he walks out of there. He's like, you know what, man, that was so great. I'm going to run for president.
Yeah, I really feel good about that. You know what? Everyone online, all my Zionist friends, Barry Weiss and Ben Shapiro, are telling me like, yeah, that was really good. You know, you stood up to Tucker Carlson. Like, you realize, like, I see people on a regular basis who watch our show. I meet them at the mall. I meet them randomly wherever, grocery store, and they're like, man, they're like, we stand with you. We stand with Tucker. We can't stand these people who are like, want all these foreign wars, who want to support. I mean, and among young people, are you kidding me? I don't know where Ted Cruz thinks he's going to get support from. I mean, he'll probably get a lot of money, get a lot of donors, but actual votes, no.
Well, and also think like he walks out of there and he's getting praise from those people. But now look, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, they refuse to talk to Tucker now. Like they won't talk to him because they know he lost that. Like they know he'll wipe the floor with them because the only argument they ever have are name calling. That's all they have.
Yeah, they won't debate him. I mean, you saw that Mark Levin admitted that Tucker asked him to have it like a friendly debate, and Mark Levin admits that he turned it down. So, again, they won't do it.
Yeah, well, and he said he turned it down because he's not gonna debate a Nazi, is what he said. Yeah. Like, come on, man.
I love these pejoratives with no basis in reality whatsoever.
Right.
Like I've known Tucker for years. I've never once thought to myself, that guy's kind of a Nazi. Nothing the guy has,
he doesn't even watch TV. Like he's basically a hippie.
Okay. I love these pejoratives for people. It's ridiculous. It's, they tried, you're an anti-Semite, and that has now completely failed. So now the new pejorative is you're a Nazi, which, that's failing as well. People are smarter than that. But there's still some dumb people out there who would probably fall for that. But most people are smart. They don't fall for that.
Mark Levin was just saying, I think it was like a year ago, he was like, it was just after the Charlie Kirk assassination. He was saying, you can't call someone a fascist. You can't call him a Nazi because it's going to get somebody killed, because the left was always calling Charlie a fascist and a Nazi. He's like, you can't do that because you'll get people killed. And then he turns around, 3-4 months later, and he's doing the same thing.
Yeah. How quickly we forget, right? Mm-hmm. Let's see, some super chats here. Barrel Mama says, I don't trust Ted Cruz as far as I can throw him, which is not at all. The Bates Funny Farm, thank you for your $2 super chat, says, could you have Ryan Dawson on your show, please? Sure. I'm open to having anybody on the show if it makes sense for a conversation, or if they're breaking some news that we want to cover. I like to have journalists on or people who've just advanced a story or broke new information. So, I'm always game for that. Like having Derek Bros on the show today. Like, here he is as a journalist in Mexico saying people are being lied to about what's actually happening in Mexico. And like, that's why I want to have Derek on our show to kind of set that straight so our audience is informed. But I'm open to having anybody on the show. Let's see. Unvaccinated guy says Winnie the Pooh Patel got caught with his hand in the honey pot. Once he got 2 hands in the honey pot, his eyes bugged out like Rodney Dangerfield permanently. And Anna Russell, thank you for your $20 super chat, says you are amazing. Thank you so much on that. And let's see in the comments here. By the way, you heard Ted Cruz there, like sort of perpetuating the lie about, because he was playing off of this idea that that Iran is trying to assassinate President Trump, right? So playing off of that Thomas Crooks idea that's why he was somehow working for Iran. Total lie, of course. No, I follow Ryan for years. Chicken My Groin says, yeah, Ryan Dawson will open your eyes. I followed his work for many, many years. I know he was way out in front on so many stories, years before other people. Lorelei says you can get Bigfoot on your show. I'd love that. I heard he stinks though.
Yeah, he smell like urine. Look, I have one right here. I have the doll.
Yeah, so not in studio, but he can join via Zoom.
And he does stink.
Yeah, we'll have him in another area. We'll keep him outdoors in his own.
Yeah.
Tanaka Dave says, enjoy your day, chat room. Clan and Blessing, thanks so much. At this point, it's just a hyperbolic mischaracterization, Diaka says. What are you talking about there? Bigfoot runs shit. Yeah, he does. And Ryan Dawson is also trying to raise the alarm about shore erosion in the Outer Banks. Okay. Joe Hoft needs to be on your show. Joe's been on a couple of times. Joe's great. We just had him on to talk January 6th and a bunch of other stuff. Native Flows. Oh, dear God. Fox News was dumped 2 years ago. I got a question for you because I really believe, like cable news is dying, clearly, right? It's irrelevant by all accounts. No young people I know watch any cable news. Like, do you know any young people that are watching MSNBC, CNN, or Fox News? Like they're getting a cable subscription or YouTube TV and they're watching that? Do you know anyone that does?
I've mentioned before, but my daughter who's 19, like that she wouldn't even know where to go to see CNN. like if I were to say, did you watch CNN last night? She was like, where, how does one even watch CNN?
She's like wandering around the kitchen like aimlessly, like you're like, honey, what are you doing? She's like, I was trying to find CNN. Where do I find that? Is that in the refrigerator? Where do I find that CNN you were telling me about?
I was looking at the stats, and Candace Owens is getting more views than CNN, MSNBC, and one other platform combined per episode.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. Well, I mean, yeah. At least
same with Fuentes. Like a lot of that generation watching Fuentes, they love him.
Yeah.
A lot of kids.
Yeah, a lot of young people are watching that. Boomer Runners High says boomers still watch cable news. Probably, yeah. Arcane Electric says, I don't know anyone under 40 that watches cable news. No.
Hey, I know Arcane. Hi, Arcane.
Trip Crown says, I picked up a CNN in the yard earlier today. My dog left it. Small Baller says, any word from your sponsors on Fox News? No, my sponsors don't like hang out on cable news. I mean, that's actually a good question. Though. I think you might be saying like, hey, do any of your sponsors still do like cable news sponsorship or, advertisement? I don't know. Like we've got 4 or 5 during one of our 60 to 70, 80 minute shows every day, like 4 or 5 sponsors. And we do like 30, 40 seconds. If you're on like watch Fox and Friends or any of those, Fox News shows, they have a commercial break like every 4 minutes or 5 minutes. And they have 5 commercial spots, 5 for every like 4 minutes. So, in a typical show, you're getting what? How many is that? Can anybody do math really quickly on that? Like in a 60-minute show, if you've got kind of like 6 or 8 breaks. We used to have a break at about like the 7-minute mark when I did Fox and Friends about the.
So like 24 to.
It depends on each show is different.
Well, that would so if it's doing it every 4 minutes, you're going to if every 4 minutes you're going to a commercial, that would be 15 commercial breaks per 60 minutes.
I think it's something like that. I'm not going to lie. Like during Fox and Friends, because that show in the morning had the most commercial breaks, I think.
And what percentage?
That's not even counting
ads.
Well, I was going to say that's not even counting the guests from Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin, and like right. There's basically an advertisement for war. So you take that out, and there's probably 2 minutes of anything that could actually be news.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about, I think, so you get about 5 per commercial break, 5 sponsors per commercial break. and then you get maybe 8-10 somewhere commercial breaks per hour in an episode of on Fox News. So we used to joke that, like, if I had a guest on, let's say I would interview Senator Ted Cruz, which I have many times on the show, right? So we'd come back from commercial break. Here's the story. Ted Cruz, you're senator. Everyone says you're about to run for president. But, I'd get like 3 questions in with him. That's it. And then we'd have to go to commercial break. Like, sorry, Senator, we're out of time. We're up against a hard break here, Senator. We're out of time. Out of time for what? Another freaking commercial break? Like, my God. It's crazy. It's crazy. So, I just don't understand. To me, it's got to be like, it's a dying system. It's a dying platform. And I don't know how sustainable. And by the way, if you watch any of those shows, if you ever catch any of them, like if you're at the airport or something or whatever, or your grandparents have on Fox News in the house, because I think the average age now is over 70 for people that watch Fox News.
Well, then what's the age of people who even have cable, period? Like, do you have cable? Like, I don't have cable. I do not watch a single
I haven't had cable for like 10 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been well over a decade since I've had cable. I know that the place I lived previously, they like said, here's your cable box, and I was like, I don't need it, and they're like, well, you have it. It comes with your internet, and I was like, I neither want nor need it, and so they left it there, so it just sat unplugged in next to my TV for like 3 years. But yeah, I haven't had actual cable television probably 10, 15 years, easy.
Yeah, me too. Barrel Mama says, my mother-in-law watches Fox and swears by it. If she sees and it didn't see it, if she sees it or didn't see it there, then she will argue until she's blue in the face. Like she get, it's like what people used to say about Rush Limbaugh. They called him ditto heads, right? They didn't actually think for themselves. They just like ditto, ditto. Yeah, ditto. Whatever Rush Limbaugh just said, ditto,
Yeah, so, when you would go to my grandmother's house, and she literally, from the morning to the time she woke up till the time she went to bed, Fox News was on the TV. So you'd go over to visit, and Fox was on in the background the whole entire time.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know a lot of elderly people that have just Fox on as like all day in the background, just constant. It's just always on. But they stick to this strict narrative, and they don't deviate from this specific narrative, and that's why you're never going to get the truth, on those types of channels. It's just sad.
Shout out to Neil Cavuto. He was the only one I could stand to listen to.
Neil was a great guy. He was always kind to me, and one of the nicest guys too. Neil's office was down the hall from mine, and he was a nice guy, really nice guy. Bill O'Reilly, no. I mean, that guy just would walk in like he wouldn't say hi to you, at all. He didn't care about anybody.
Even if you were another host, like he wasn't, I can understand him, seeing other people as peasants, the workers, but even another host, he was.
No, I mean, my office was down the hall from Bill O'Reilly's, and he didn't care. And if he ever came on our show to promote like one of his stupid new books, Killing Lincoln or Killing Jesus or whatever other book he never wrote and just had a co-writer or a ghostwriter write it anyway. So he would come on the show, and he didn't even know who, he didn't care to know who I was. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm hosting Fox and Friends, which is actually at the time was the most watched morning news show on cable. Like, you'd think and my office is kind of like down the hall from you, like 6 offices down from you. Like, doesn't matter. He didn't care. And I didn't care.
Yeah.
Whatever. But there's some great people. There was some great, like Bill Hemmer, super nice to me. Like he'd be there early in the mornings because his show came on after ours, and so he was down the hall from me. I'd see him a lot, and we would just chit chat about stuff. And so Bill was always super nice.
What about Brett Baer? He nice guy? He seemed like he would be.
I didn't get to see Brett a whole lot because he was in Washington D.C. So because I was in New York City, so I didn't get to see Brett all that often. So, and then and so I'm trying to think who else. Like other, I have to say, like, I'm not a fan of his politics at all. Pro-Israel first, pro-war, very much a pro-war guy. Sean Hannity, but he was always super nice to me. And back actually when I was a young producer in Los Angeles and I was at the Democratic National Convention running around, he and was it Combs? What was it? Alan Combs was his like co-host at the times. They used to do Hannity and Combs back in the day. And Hannity, it was super early in the morning and I had to get both of those guys together to do a hit, well, like on TV. I like, hey guys, can I bring you over here and we're going to do this thing. Combs was a huge dick. Like he just he was the Democrat of the group, he was the liberal, the tolerant liberal. And Hannity was like, sure, whatever you need. And I was like I was a nobody, and he went out of his way to like be gracious at like 6:30 in the morning. And so I always remembered that, I think you can tell a lot about people by how they treat like crew, camera guys, things like that, So he was. I always remembered him being really gracious. He was always gracious to me, and I didn't get to see him that much.
I've ended dates early because the kind of like a sort of not blind date situation. But I've ended dates early because the date was rude to a server.
Can you imagine? I'm
like, nope. Nope. I have no future. I don't even want to finish this meal with you. So I'm out.
Wow. Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, can you imagine being with people who are rude to waiters? Like, those people are the worst.
Yeah.
They're the worst. Someone in the chat's asking about Greg Gutfeld. I was always friends with Greg. Greg and I got along really well. I used to do his old show called Red Eye. He would have me on there, and we would have a lot of fun. And then I'd have him on my show on Fox and Friends, and we had a lot of fun. And so I always got along great with Greg. Well, we'd hang out in the green room together and just have coffee and laugh and make jokes and stupid stuff. So, yeah, I got along great with Greg. He was always super easy to hang out with. So, anyway, that's enough talking old school, walking down memory lane here. But all that to say, I just think that platform is completely dying. It's a dinosaur now. So all of that audience is over 70 years old. And they're not going to replace them. Like, there's not going to be a whole group of like 20-year-olds that's like, you know what? We're all going to start subscribing to cable or whatever, or get YouTube television, start watching Fox News. Like, it's just not going to happen.
No.
So,
no, their days are definitely numbered.
Rob's Classic
People having cable news watch parties, like the old LAN parties of the 90s. Like a bunch of friends get together and hook up their cable box and watch CNN together.
Oh, my gosh. Chris Handshake says they just tried to claim that the Iranian embassy tried to kill the Israeli ambassador to Mexico, and they tried to bomb the Senate in Mexico 1 month after 9/11. Yeah. Rob's Classic says, how can we create young men chasing real American morals? Oh, boy. I think it has to start at the family level, right? It has to start with the mom and dad. Teaching young men to be strong and to be hard workers and to get off their ass. Like, it starts with me as a father, right? Like, can't look to the government to do it. It's got to start with me. Like, I want to make sure that my son, who's 15, is not a lazy sack of shit, and I want him, like, if he sees his family up doing chores and working on things to clean the house, like, he better get off his ass, and you're a part of a team and you do it. I want you to be the person that holds the door. I want you to be the person that puts in the hard work. Like, that's the way it's got to be as men, as young men.
Well, I'll tell you, you have raised some good kids. I was over there on Saturday, and I was getting a drink of water. I grabbed a glass out of the cupboard, and Miles took it. He's like, no, that one's dirty. Give me that. And he got me a clean glass. Like, just very respectable kids. So
thank you so much.
Yeah.
I mean, we struggle. It's like you want them to be hard workers, but you also want to be loving, but you don't want them to be like lazy sacks, because if you teach them to be lazy, then they're going to
live
suffer
with you in your basement till they're 35.
Yeah, they're going to be living with me till they're 35. And worse than that, I mean, they're not going to contribute to society at all. I would say like 90% of success is like showing up, right? Like, and the other 10% is like that extra oomph that you put into something to make it happen, right? Like, imagine going up to a teacher. I said that to my son. Like, I said, because he went up to like some teacher that opened a portal and he couldn't submit his math homework or something like that. And he just said, are you able to open the portal again? because when the teacher opened it, it was like 9 p.m. and he was already asleep. But he was sick. The day that they were turning in this assignment, he was not well. He actually had like a migraine attack. We had to take him to the hospital, actually. So the teacher opened it like at 9 o'clock that night, but he had already gone to bed. So he went to the teacher and asked, like, hey, can you open this portal? Are you going to be able to open the portal again? And the teacher just said no. And I said, son, I'm like, your dad never takes no for an answer, ever. Like, that's not a word in my vocabulary. Like, I would not have left that room until I figured out a way to make this happen. Like, okay, I understand you opened the portal at 9 p.m. Like, you got to figure, like, come back an hour later. Maybe he was pissy or something. I don't know. But you don't take no for an answer. So it's like that little extra 10% of just being persistent and pushing through, like that. You gotta have that. But young men just got to be strong. I was speaking to a TP USA group the other day. A lot of young men and young women. And I asked all the people at this event, I was like, and it was a high school event, you know, and it wasn't like a big one with like Andrew Colvat and you know, Megyn Kelly and all that kind of stuff. It was just like a small gathering, small little chapter. And I said, how many of you women want to eventually marry a weak man? How many of you, like when the bullets start flying and your kids are in trouble or whatever, how many of you want to marry a weak man? Not one of the girls raised their hand. I said, how many of you, when the bullets start flying and push comes to shove and you need like a strong man in your corner, like how many of you would want to marry a strong man to protect your children, to protect you? They all raised their hand. And I turned to the men and I'm like, do you see that? Like, you know, it's about being strong. It's about doing the hard work. It's about putting in the hard work. It's about when no one else will do it, you're the one that does it. Like, I don't want to, you know, we got to push past raising a generation of lazy sacks of crap.
I remember like there was something, I don't remember what it was. It was when I was in college, but like there was something I needed to get taken care of and time was critical. And I was talking to the person like on the line that I called and they're like, there's just nothing we can do. And I was like, look, somebody in that building you're in can fix this.
Right.
And I was like, and obviously it's not you. So I want to talk to the person that can. And then she's just like, okay, I think I'll transfer you. And I was like, yeah, see, they were just going to be like, no, there's nothing we can do. And I was like, no, there's nothing you're going to do, but I'm sticking with it. So just get me the competent person. Where are they at?
See, for me, when we lived in Europe for 5 years, we were there, you know, while the kids were young to give them that experience. We lived in the country of Portugal for 5 years. And, you know, it was amazing because it just didn't, it was like oil and water for me. You know, it just did not mix in a lot of ways. There was a lot to love about it, but like, no. The people there are so beaten down with, like, it used to be a socialist government. So when the government tells you to do something, or you go to like a bureaucratic government office and you hand them your form and they're like, sorry, no, that's not the form, or this is not the thing. You need to come back on next Tuesday or whatever. The people just go, okay. And they just walk around it. For me, I had trouble because I couldn't do the language as well as my wife, but I was like, no. You don't understand. Like, I get what you're telling me, but that's not going to fly. Like, I've been here an hour and a half now, and you're telling me now I need this other form that's not, no, that's not, can I talk to somebody? And they like kind of look up like, this guy's like talking back to me? Like, what? Like, they're just not used to that at all. Or like, they want me to wear a COVID mask, and I'm like, I'm not wearing a COVID. Sorry, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. No, you have to. Then you can't come in here. You can't come in here. You can't come in here. Well, then I'm not going to come in there. Sorry, I'm not going to wear your stupid COVID mask. You know, so it just, yeah. I never take no for an answer with that kind of stuff, and I just want my kids to not do that as well. So he's learning. But you know, the thing is, like, you know, young people, they just don't like talking to adults, you know? So like, you know, it's so funny. Last night, my son was driving. He's just learning to drive, and we were driving together. He was driving for 45 minutes, and it was some heavy traffic. It was kind of crazy. We actually went to the Broncos game yesterday, and so it was like crazy traffic getting out of there, watching them beat Mahomo. And so we coming out of there, he was driving for 45 minutes, and we're like, hey, we're all a little hungry. Like, let's go grab some food. And he didn't want to like go through a drive-through. And he's like, no, can we just go in? I don't want to like do the drive. I'm like, son, you just did the hardest thing, which is driving this crazy traffic, leaving a stadium where everyone's like bumper to bumper, not letting you in, not letting you move in. You know, you're waving, all the, you know the whole thing, right? Cops waving you this way. There's a cone in the way. Like, he did the hard thing. And the easiest thing is to go to a drive-thru and just talk to a human. He said, can we just go in? I don't want to do that. I'm like, he just got so flustered that he was having to take all of our orders. And I purposely kept messing up my order. I'm like, I'll do the bacon, egg, and I'll do the Baconator. Can I do the Baconator? No, I changed my mind. Can tell him I want to change my mind. I was doing it just to F with him a little bit.
Now you know.
Well, I've seen where like this generation, like they'll get up in the face of riot police and like they'll push back, they'll fight, they'll throw like concrete milkshakes at riot police, but then like to actually make an appointment on the phone, they're like, no, that's too much. And that's not saying anything is bad with this generation. It's just funny. It's just different, because like I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, like I'm definitely a Gen Xer, and so it's like it was just different. Like
Rem says creativity is better than toughness. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know about that. Is it? I think from toughness, like by being strong, it allows you the facility and the time, the space to be creative.
Well, the thing is, you need both. I mean, you have creative people that aren't tough and tough people who aren't creative, and you kind of need those.
Well, yeah, I mean, and they're different tools. It's like being. It's not like you can either be one or the other.
Like Einstein did not look tough,
My little one just got home. This is Eve, baby Eve. Did you have fun at the game yesterday? What are you eating? I smell chips. I smell chips. Get out of here. All right. I guess that means it's time to wrap it up, everyone. That's my 9-year-old. So, hey, much love to all of you guys. Thank you guys for subscribing to the show, being a part of our community here. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Redacted community. And, we'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye, everyone.